Appreciate you guys coming out. I know that holiday weekend, a lot of people are out of town, and you guys are here, so appreciate that. I try to give a little bit extra in these trainings on the holidays for those of you guys who show up. But anytime, T always brings me up after we introduce people who had guests, after we do top turnout to see who has the most people here. And it always kind of reminds me that Primerica is a very high-powered opportunity. It can be. Like, how do you view this business? Do you view it as just something like, and again, none of these are wrong, but it will determine what your outcome is going to be. Right? Some people go to the gym literally because they just want to go talk to people and meet people. I see them at the gym. They're not working out. They're just going, they're seeing someone, they take out the headphones, they're talking, it's a 20-minute conversation. I'm like, dude, you can't work out with 20-minute breaks after each set. Right? You're not at the gym to work out. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that person probably is not going to get in shape. It's the same thing with this business. Maybe you're here just to hang around some positive people. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe you're here because you just want to learn a little bit about finance. Maybe you just like the way it makes you feel, right? It's the positivity. Some people are here because they want to make $500 a month or $1,000 a month. A lot of money or more money, that's relative to everybody. What's going to move the needle in your life? When I came into business, $1,000 a month extra was a ton of money. But how do you view the opportunities? It's something where maybe one day you can go full time and replace your income. So, you're making $60,000, $80,000, and maybe you can make that in Primerica, you work for yourself. Or you coming in and really seeing the opportunity where you can come in and make $250,000. Dude, $100,000 anybody can make anywhere. This isn't 20 years ago like when I started. You gotta aim for $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month. You can do that. Now with the products and services that we offer, you can literally do that on your own pen. And you can build a team. And you can have passive income. Everyone is looking for this. It's right here. You have to know what opportunity you have. The reason why I'm still here after the savings I've accumulated, the opportunities I have all around me, the friends I have, right? All the things, the reason why I still show up here is because I haven't seen anything else. I've done the research for you. I've gone out there. I've talked to the people. I've investigated. Of all the things that people usually want in an opportunity to make it perfect, I feel like Primerica has all of those things. Because I can have success and I can see other people have success. My success is based on somebody else's success. I have a lot of friends that are successful, but they're not making anybody else successful. They're not doing anything where someone else can copy them, or they're not duplicating themselves. Again, it's not wrong, it's just different. I can go out there and I can go in some big real estate project and flip that thing, or be a developer and make $1 million, but right, it's a lot different when I have young people or new people I'm developing because they're making $10,000, $12,000, $20,000 a month. I'm making more money. Sheila was a nurse. She hated her job. She was getting tired. Her body was breaking down. She didn't like the way management was treating her. She's making $100,000. Now she's making $400,000. That's why I make more money. That's how I want to make more money, by elevating other people. Does that make sense? And if you think about how our business is driven, right? How secure is my income? My income is driven by independent people chasing their own goals and dreams. Xander's a single dad with a 4-year-old. He's not working because he wants to make Samir more money. He wants to make more money for his son. He wants to make $250,000 for his family. It has nothing to do with me. I could leave tomorrow. It doesn't mean that he's going to leave. I could stop showing up tomorrow. It doesn't mean that Josh is going to quit. Josh wants to retire his family. Josh wants to retire his mom. He's not here because of me. These are all independent people. Shondel's an independent person. Sheila is an independent person. They're chasing their own goals and dreams. And I get wealthy in the process. That is what you want. You can have people making money in all kinds of opportunities. You look right now, right, in Silicon Valley, which really is changing the world right now with the whole AI boom. And you have OpenAI, and you have Anthropic, and you have Meta, and you have SpaceX. You have all these different companies. And even when people are making and have stock options for these IPOs in the hundreds of millions, they're still leaving for other companies. And there's some math behind that. They're like, okay, you know, even before IPO, if I sell my shares prematurely, I still made X amount. But even they can't keep their people. The reason why we can keep people here is because you have the exact same opportunity as me. Everything that I've done and more. Sheila has made more money than me in the time that in my first 10 years versus her first 10 years. You guys can kill what I have done, what Shaq has done. But if you want that, you got to find your own independent people under you that are chasing their goals and dreams. That's it, man. And that's what my training is about today, is the reason why people don't stick to Primerica is because they think that it's hard. And there are elements of it that are hard. But you know, I usually think in terms of like polar opposites. Like if someone says something is hard, then what does that mean that they're looking for? Easy. And how are you going to win doing easy? That's not how you're going to win in life. Sometimes the hard route is going to get you to where you want to go. But is the job hard? Yeah. It can be. Even if it's not hard physically, it can be very hard mentally, psychologically. In those same companies that I mentioned, right? Because of the software that they're creating, what are you hearing about what's happening in the world, in the tech world? They're laying people off. Meta just laid off 8,000 people. Cloudflare just laid off 4,000 people. They said these people just measure stuff. The CEO came out with a note. He thought it was like informative and everyone got pissed off because it's very insensitive. He said anyone that measures anything or just kind of like monitors stuff AI can do now, we just let them all go. Wow. You don't think that's anxiety inducing if you've done something all your life and you're gonna, right? I mean, the warning signs are there, but when it happens, it's not gonna be fun for anybody. So there's a saying, right? You gotta choose your hard. There's gonna be some hard things over here, but there's gonna be some hard things over there too. You choose your hard. And the hard that you choose is gonna determine where you are gonna end up. You know, one of the things that my mentor taught me a long time ago, he said, you're here today because choices that you made 5 years ago. Where's your bank account? Who are your friends? What's your physique? What do you do in your career? All of those things are based on choices you made 5 years ago. So wouldn't it make sense for me to make better choices now, so 5 years from now, I can be in a different place in my life? And sometimes it's like, you know, we have 18-year-olds in here, 20-year-olds in here. Sometimes it's like, man, 5 years is so long away. Let me tell you something. One of the main aspects of a successful person is the time frames in which they think. Elon Musk changed the world. You think he's thinking about next weekend? You think he's thinking about his next paycheck? He's thinking about generations from now. I want to be multi-planetary, our species. You have to think in longer time frames than just a few months, like most people. You have to think in terms of years. That's how you're going to be successful. So, you know, you can choose your hard. People, sometimes in Primerica, it's hard that there's no schedule. Now, my full-timers, they kind of have a schedule. We say, look, show up to the office around this time. You should do this amount of work. But if they don't, they're not going to get in trouble. And sometimes that makes it difficult because when you don't have someone managing you, you got to manage yourself, and people are terrible bosses of themselves. Or you can go somewhere, you can have a very rigid schedule. If you talk to employees, that's one of the main gripes that people have is the schedule. That they can't do anything 9 to 5. They can't answer their phone. I have friends that are air traffic controllers, right? They're literally monitoring the planes coming down from the sky onto the runway and from the runway into the sky. They can't answer phones. They can't go run an errand. They can't be texting. They can't do anything during that time. It's a very rigid schedule. That's tough, so you choose which one you want. You got freedom, but you got to learn how to manage yourself, or you have somebody else telling you where you got to be. You know, I watch people, they come into Primerica and you know, not everybody makes it. But they kind of feel, they taste that freedom. And they say that as soon as you get a taste of freedom, it basically ruins you in terms of employment. You can never go back. So people leave here and then they kind of don't know where to go because going back to a job and working a regular schedule is really tough. Here, we do have accountability. We may ask you, hey dude, how many appointments did you set today? How many people did you talk to? How many people are going to have to the next meeting? No one's saying you have to do it, but there is some level of accountability, or you can have a freaking boss. And most people don't like their boss. The boss-employee relationship, there's a lot of tension in that, right? Because maybe you don't feel that the boss deserves to be your boss. Maybe they don't know more than you. Maybe they talk down to you. Maybe they're threatened by you. Here it's just accountability. And people, it's like, we call, sometimes they don't answer the phone. You gotta answer the phone. You gotta communicate. You gotta post your numbers. It's accountability. Right? So you choose what's harder. You don't want the accountability, but then you're gonna go back to a boss? Right? People don't want to recruit, and then they go to a job fair and they got recruited. Let me get this straight. You don't want to go and try to recruit someone under you, but you're happy someone recruiting you to go work under them. You don't want to hire people to help build your company, but in a heartbeat, you'll go and you will build someone else's company. This is how entrepreneurs think, right? I know in the normal world, all this stuff is, people kind of accepted it, but it doesn't have to be that way. You choose your hard, right? A lot of people don't want to work commission, right? But do you want to work salary? I was on appointments this week. I met this wealthier guy. Just like Shaq said, it's not our market. I don't look for rich people, but it's just kind of like the circle that I'm in. And he asked me for an appointment. I said, and we sat down, and I was just thinking, like, man, if he does this with me, that's a $45,000 commission. $45,000. That's people's 6 months' income. For what? A Zoom call? Because someone, talked about me? What did I say last week? Your reputation precedes you? Heard about me? I don't know. That's never going to happen if I become a pharmacist and I work for someone else, right? And I'm making $12,000 a month or whatever it would have been. A salary, yes, it gives you security, but it's so limited to the upside. You do have a floor, but then you have a ceiling. Which type of person are you? Are you the person you need that floor? Or are you that person, I can't have a ceiling, but you can't get both? Oh, but I heard this one thing is salary plus commission. That commission has a ceiling. You're not getting paid as much as if you were 100% getting paid for that production. The company's taking some of that, right? Commission can really, I talk about it all the time, it gives you variability in your income. Like John, you work for the county, right? Wouldn't it be nice if 3 times out of the year, all of a sudden they just gave you an extra 10 grand? That would change things, right? You kind of pay some things off, or you take an extra vacation, or you put some stuff in savings. It can never happen at a job, because at a job with that consistent income, all you can say is, okay, I make this much, I spend this much. If I can take 200 for the next 19 weeks, maybe I can save for whatever. The variability, it's motivating. It's like if you work full-time and work part-time in Primerica, I'll show you how to make $5,000 out of nowhere. That could be life-changing for you, or for some goal that you're trying to reach. So it's up to you if you want to look at that as a negative, but this is so many limitations with this. You can hear, greatness is hard, right? But average is hard too. It's hard to be average. Like when I'm around people, it's nice to say, hey, I've built a business. I have this many licensed agents, and, I've been in business for this long, and we have this many clients. It's nice to say that, versus if I was a pharmacist, just kind of, I just work for somebody. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just feel better about myself that I've done something that most people weren't willing to do. It's hard to compete. We have leaderboards, and now we have this new app that we've created, and there's just every day is a competition, and some people win the trip and they don't win the trip. And they win the incentives and they don't win the incentives, but at a job, there's no growth. If I become a pharmacist, right, what am I competing for? How am I growing? You can't count pills faster. Right? you know, working commission, looking for people, managing numbers, trying to hit bonuses, trying to get the volume, you know, getting people to show up. That can give you a little bit of anxiety, but a job is 24/7 anxiety. And I know there's times, right, like during COVID where people would have 2, 3 jobs, none of them they showed up for, they're getting 3 paychecks for free, and they're kind of cheating companies, and yeah, that was low stress, and how long did that last? Now things have gone all the way the other way. Everyone has to go back to work, and they found out about these things, right? It's hard to find a job. Leveling up, not leveling up, right? You know what I love about Primerica is that every time, like, the things that when I first came in, I dreamed about things that were here. And once I got here, I dreamed about things that were here. And once I got here, I dreamed about things that were here. I'm embarrassed to tell you the thoughts that go through my mind in terms of the things that I want to do now. Because it's just almost becoming unrelatable for a lot of people. I could have never imagined those things when I first started. I had to get to one level to see to the next level, to see to the next level. It's really difficult to do that at a job. Because you already know, like one time I sat down with a teacher and I said, you know, when we do a financial plan, how much do you make? And we want to project out your retirement. And she said, oh, I already know it, right? She was 30 years old. She knew what her income would be from now until 60. So her whole income was basically written in a box, and she can't exceed that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying for someone like me, I don't know why I have this mindset. I want to bust out. I want to do more and more and more. I want to save more and more, make more and more, donate more and more. But how can you do that if someone else determines your income? Right? Here I got to be a leader. Over there, I'm a follower. You can kind of be, you know, there are some positions of leadership, obviously, at corporations. But for the most part, people get jobs and they have to be followers. Primerica taught me how to be a leader. And trust me, the qualities that this company has taught me has helped me tremendously in my life outside Primerica. I give Primerica all the credit, right? You can be managing people or you can be getting managed. Who likes the feeling of getting managed? I just talked about this. You can have big dreams. You can't dream. Things that are money related, which is a lot of stuff, is hard when you're very limited with your income. And then a big one here, you can have passive income. Yeah, it's hard to generate passive income because it's sometimes difficult to find motivated people. Right? But do you always want to have only active income? It's nice, man. You know, when you see, if you're on that thread, like when I come around people and they ask about the business, the first thing I do is I go to the thread. And I say, see all these people every time they post, right? Me and my partner get paid for that. Don't you want that? Anytime someone in here, and there's so many people outside that aren't in this room, anytime someone gets a life insurance sale, an investment, or whatever else they're doing, anytime someone does anything, you make money for it. I don't do this anymore. When I was a little younger, I'd be like at a nice dinner, and then I would get an email, and I'd be like, oh, this email just now, 5 seconds ago, paid for this dinner and more. Isn't that amazing? Maybe a $200, $300, $400, $500 dinner, one email, and I already know it's paid for. It's not even like the money before. It's while I'm sitting there. That is passive income. Active income, if you're not there, you're not going to make money. Sometimes in active income, if you work more, you make more. But the problem is you never get to work less. I know multi-millionaires and all different. I told you I was on that trip, and one of the guys there was a plastic surgeon. And he does facelifts. And he said, yeah, man, it was not easy for me to get out here. Because what's he calculating in his head? He does 8 facelifts per day. And we were gone for 2 weekdays. Because all of his income, now he makes a lot of money and he has a ton of money. But doesn't matter how much money you have, people still focus on their income. I think he didn't tell me this, but the other friend told me that in index funds, he has $30 million. This guy's rich. But even he is calculating, right? Because that's just the way it is when you're on active income. It's just like, I could be working, I'm not, I could be making more money, I'm not. He doesn't spend anything, you wouldn't even be able to tell. But he's just that type of person, right? So I believed enough and I focused enough and I understood enough that even though there was many inconvenient and sometimes hard things I had to do in Primerica, the destination was going to be something that I could be proud of, that I was excited about, that people would envy, right? And I wouldn't regret. And that's exactly what's happened, man. But you gotta build this thing brick by brick. You gotta build it 1 week at a time, one person at a time. It's not always gonna be easy, but what's the alternative? That's always a question you gotta ask yourself. What is the alternative? And I've seen people who leave here what their alternative is, and I've never been like, oh yeah, that was a great decision. There's not a lot of alternatives. You know? Like Khan, your dad owns a very successful business, right? That's an alternative. Good for you. My parents didn't own a business. You know? We start businesses so one day our kids can run those businesses. They don't have to work for someone else. Some people have that opportunity. I didn't have that opportunity. You know, so I'm not saying there's zero alternatives. Some people do have an alternative. Most people don't. And for people who don't, and if you don't have a lot of upfront capital, I've never seen a business like this, man. I've never seen a business like this. Why do businesses go under? Because they have so many expenses, they can't bring in the income fast enough to cover the expenses. Primerica doesn't work like that. What are your Primerica expenses? $10 a gas to come here? You have no employees, you have no overhead, you have no insurances you gotta buy, you have nothing that a normal business has. You have no fixed expenses. I think $25 a month for software. You can't go out of business here unless you quit. Just don't quit, just stick around, right? And that's the main thing. So we got Josh coming up here.